Now, a new film called The Big Fat Fix has claimed eating more fat while cutting carbs and sugar can help you lose weight and be happier. Let's have a look.
What can I do to exercise more effectively?
Well, it's a great question with a relatively short answer. You can learn to move well. Mobility is hugely important. You can learn to exercise smarter, and you can learn to listen to your body.
Nothing like me running on a treadmill. Much harder. Much harder.
I'm pleased to say that cardiologist Dr. Aseem Malhotra has put some clothes on and is here in the studio. Good morning. Look, how many times have we said this? We get confused over what we're meant to do. It's a very confusing message. Talk us through this.
Yeah, no, Steve, you're absolutely right. And I think one of the reasons I made this documentary, which was crowdfunded to remove any commercial influences, really to cut through the epidemic of misinformation on diet and health that we have. And what we've done is produced an informative and step-by-step and entertaining guide, really, to try and help people understand that simple lifestyle changes can rapidly improve your health, both in preventing disease and even treating disease, and are more powerful than many drugs. And we have a big problem, as you know, in the NHS at the moment, the increasing burden of chronic disease. Just take type 2 diabetes, for example. It's costing the NHS about £20 billion per year, NHS and the economy indirectly. And that's going to set to double in the next 20 years unless we take urgent action. Now, type 2 diabetic patient, it's a disease of carbohydrate intolerance. I've seen patients, if they cut the sugar and the refined carbohydrates, within months can reduce the need for medication. Some people even reverse their type 2 diabetes. And there's a GP up north called David Unwin who's actually done that in his own practice, and he saved about £45,000 just by giving advice to type 2 diabetic patients to do such things. And it's been extrapolated. If all GPs were to do that across the NHS, then we'd actually save £423 million a year just on diabetes medications alone. So what this film shows is really how people can have simple lifestyle changes, you know, have better quality of life, be healthier and happier, and that's what the aim of the film is. And we want to. Yeah.
It does require willpower from the individual, though, doesn't it? I mean, once you have the palate for sweet things, to then try and reverse it, that's the difficulty that most people have.
Gillian, you're right, but actually it's much more simple than people realise. And there are people who have been, you know, following conventional advice, thinking they need to be on medications for different conditions. I mean, another thing I tell my patients, heart patients, that adopting the Mediterranean-style diet after suffering a heart attack is actually more powerful than aspirin, statins, even heart stents. Not saying they aren't beneficial, these drugs aren't beneficial, but the lifestyle changes are even more powerful and without the side effects. So what we want to do actually with this film, and it premiered in Parliament yesterday, is really have a global reach. You know, it's something that's entertaining, interesting for people to watch. They can download it by going to the bigfatfix.com. And, you know, we want to really spread this message around the globe.
Yeah, but the message in itself is in effect not necessarily eating more fat in it, but just saying fat is not bad for you necessarily. Yeah. Now that is, to most of us, that's exactly what we think is that, you know, we all buy low-fat spread, or I do low-fat spreads and low-fat this and low-fat that. Yeah.
Steve, you're absolutely right. And we explain in the film how we got this message wrong. So we actually go to the roots of where the low-fat message started, actually, in a southern Italian village called Pioppi. And the architect of the low-fat message, a chap called Professor Ansel Keys, who became the most powerful man in nutrition. Actually, we explore what actually went wrong. Was the science flawed, which it was, and then how has that been exacerbated by commercial influence? And really, it's been a root cause driving the type 2 diabetes and obesity epidemic. So what the film shows is it goes into detail around that and then gives people simple things they can do, whether it's the right type of diet, movement, exercise, stress reduction, and how powerful that can be for everybody, really, improving their health.
Why aren't we already seeing in the supermarkets, instead of shelves full of low fat this, why aren't we seeing low sugar this and low sugar that? Because this message is not completely new.
You're absolutely right. I think that's what we need to do. We need to push that. We need to get this sort of... people need to stop fearing fat, okay? I mean, I always go for the full fat options because a lot of the low fat options are low sugar.
Look at you.
What's that?
I said you can, look at you.
No, but I used to follow the conventional advice. I probably was consuming a few years ago maybe 40 teaspoons of sugar a day in all the food I would eat. Sugared cereal in the morning, panini and pasta at lunch. You know, I'd have a chocolate cake before I went to bed at night. I would run 5K 3 times a week. I've stopped doing that now because I've learned from the former international athlete I co-produced the film with better ways of exercising. And actually, when I changed my diet, Gillian, and I love sugar. I've cut it out almost completely. I don't crave it anymore. And interestingly, I lost about I did this for health, not for weight, but I actually lost around a stone around my waist. And belly fat actually is the real risk.
Well,
Have to watch that
food
film.
for thought. I'm going to watch that film. Absolutely, because I want to lose about a stone in a minute. I'm getting up nowhere fast, so I need a bit of help. And I'm going to recruit you as a personal trainer as well. Good to see you, as always. Thanks to you.
Thank you.
Nick, what have you got for us
We
in the
saw,
headlines?
we saw Pakistan doing press-ups on the field to celebrate winning the first test.